Hello, everybody. I am Nicholas Mahoney with the Association of Schools and Programs of Public Health, and this is the ASPPH Presents Webinar Student Services Spotlight Diversity Recruitment Strategies. I'm now going to go over the learning objectives. So we're going to examine current diversity strategies and identify off-campus diversity recruitment events that a school or program respective could attend. We'll also help people understand how to design an on-campus diversity recruitment event. This is the agenda of today's webinar. We're going to go through the pipeline programs, off-campus recruitment, on-campus recruitment, application review, mentoring, and then we're going to do questions and answers at the end of our the conversation that will take place. If you have any questions, everyone is on mute as the presenters are speaking, but you can feel free to add your questions to the questions taskbar on the display panel. And then just so everybody knows, we are also going to be sending out this presentation as it is being recorded after the presentation is finished. I'm now going to introduce Johnston King. He is our moderator for today. He's the Director of Admissions for the Gilling School of Global Public Health at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Thank you, Johnston, for moderating today, and we really look forward to the conversation.
Thank you, Nick, for all that you've done to help us get set up for today's discussion. Just to give a little background, the topics that we are going to be reviewing today came from the meeting last November in San Diego, when these were the topics that we kind of collectively as a group decided that people wanted to learn more about. And I think that hopefully today, after hearing from our different participants, that everybody will leave with some ideas of some recruitment strategies that they can go ahead and put in place for this upcoming admission season. So at this time, I am excited to be able to introduce our panelists. And as we've prepared for this event today, I've really enjoyed getting to know them and also getting to kind of learn from them. And I think you all will also enjoy learning from them as well. So Trinette Cooper, the Coordinator for Diversity Programs and Recruitment at the Gilling School of Global Public Health here at UNC Chapel Hill. Todd Thobe, the Assistant Director of Marketing, Recruitment, and Admissions, College of Public Health, The Ohio State University. Michelle Azurin, Diversity Outreach Coordinator for DREAM at UC Berkeley School of Public Health. So as we kind of transition into our first topic, we're going to be discussing pipeline programs. And with pipeline programs, we're going to kind of ask Trinette and Todd to lead us off. So first off, I want to ask kind of Trinette, could you give us an overview of the pipeline programs that you've worked with?
Sure. Again, my name is Trinette Cooper. I am delighted to participate in this webinar. Thank you to ASPPH and my colleague Johnston King for the invitation. I think pipeline programs are an excellent strategy for recruitment as relates to getting underrepresented minorities or a more diverse population into your schools and programs. We here at the Gilling School have worked with a number of different strategies, both pre-college programming, because we do have undergraduate programs here in the school, as well as some summer undergraduate training programs working with current undergraduate students who are preparing for graduate school. Just quickly, I'll give an overview of our pre-college programming, which we actually do not offer anymore, but while it was in place for about 5 years, it was a great strategy to expose high school students to the Gilling School and to let them know about the process if they were to be admitted to UNC Chapel Hill as an undergraduate, what it would take to apply and become an undergraduate in our BSPH programs. And so the Summer Public Health Symposium for High School Students, which was the name of the program, was grant funded. We pretty much recruited students in the high schools across the state of North Carolina. This was a residential, about 2.5-day program that really allowed students to get quick exposure to the field of public health, the undergraduate programs, but also UNC, because it really, determined their them getting into UNC as an undergraduate student. Obviously, will position them for admittance into our school in our BSPH programs. Pre-college programming takes a long time. The impact is not seen immediately. And I think, once we kind of talk a little bit more about challenges, et cetera, we can focus more on that. But I did want to point, if anyone was wondering why we no longer had that program, unfortunately, it just takes a long time for the yield. And then I'll just quickly talk about our two undergraduate training programs that we have here, working with a local HBCU, North Carolina Central University, and a national program that's also based at an HBCU, Morehouse College's Project MOTEP. These are both 6 to 8 week long programs where students actually reside here at UNC and are matched with research mentors in the Gillen School so that they can become engaged in research culture or get more exposure in research culture, but also begin developing relationships with folks who could potentially write letters of recommendations or they could continue that work with. And then my job is to make sure they are getting the academic prep, professional development exposure to make them a well-rounded candidate for, or support them in being a well-rounded candidate for admissions into our graduate programs. So we are an academic partner with Project MOTEP through Morehouse College's Public Health Sciences Institute. But the work that we do with North Carolina Central University in that program is actually a joint grants program that's funded by the National Cancer Institute that really promotes collaboration among predominantly white institutions and historically Black colleges and universities, again, HBCUs. And I'll just briefly also add that while we have those particular programs under our office, we also go out and present a number of times during the summer and during the academic year for pipeline programs that are ongoing. For example, our Bridge program, our Summer Enrichment program that's also here at UNC, the Carolina Advising Corps, and then a number of TRIO programs that are either here at UNC, but also in some of our neighboring schools. We do a good deal of presentations about the Gillen School to those programs. So while they are pipeline programs, not that we're necessarily running, but we contribute to the program, and those students obviously are exposed, and we see applications from them in our graduate school.
Great, thank you, Trinette. Todd, can you share with us a little bit about your experience with pipeline programs?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me be a part of this as well. So just to continue to touch on some of the things that Trinette was saying, we also will work with different HBCUs regionally for us. So there are two that are located in Ohio, Central State University and Wilberforce, that not only the College of Public Health, but Ohio State in general are continuing to try to build relationships and just the pipeline program, whether it's attending grad fairs or just one-off information sessions with those respective institutions, just to continue to create an awareness of the programs Ohio State can offer those individuals there. We also have, at this point, a really strong connection with in Atlanta region HBCUs, so the Morehouse, Atlanta Clark, and Spelman University or Spelman College programs that we will send different programs from Ohio State. College of Public Health is one of those programs, and a few times a year we will do table fairs in their respective unions, where we will also do an information session / dinner reception at night. That is actually programmed through those universities. So that is a program, and we get a great turnout. We talk to really engaged students that want to learn more, whether it's about our respective programs or just how to be a competitive graduate student amongst our peer institutions as well. So those opportunities have really blossomed into creating an awareness and creating relationships with those universities, which we are trying to continue to build as we piece that out. Obviously we want to stay regional in those endeavors until we start rolling that out further and further in our scope. We also have our graduate and professional admissions department will host different McNair scholars programs, and we build those programs through respective institutions as well. So we have at this point a strong contingency with Kentucky, the University of Kentucky down in Lexington, Eastern Michigan, Kent State, to just name a few programs that we will do different outreach and engagement with. Within the College of Public Health and at Ohio State in general, we have a multicultural public health student association, and that program really helps us provide outreach to other student orgs that we may not be aware of. As students, they are connected more so than we can imagine. So just tapping into our student orgs and having them help us bridge that gap amongst other student orgs across the different universities, whether it's in-state or out-of-state, has been a program that we have used quite a bit to help us create different pipelines amongst respective peer institutions.
Okay, great. I think what I kind of heard for both of y'all to cover, and I feel like we, for time's sake, I just want to touch on this briefly, but I'm going to go to Trinette first to kind of speak about the collaboration piece with on-campus partners, because so much of what people talked about in last November was that they didn't have a lot of time, extra time to do a lot of additional programming. And from that example that you were kind of giving at the intranet, it sounds like that being able to kind of combine resources and work together for programming and using already established partnerships on the university's campus was helpful. Do you think that's true? Do you have anything to add to that?
Oh, no, I think that's absolutely true. I think for one, we want to make sure that we're not overlooking the bright students that we have on our campus, particularly for our graduate programs, because we do a lot of outward-facing recruitment at other colleges and universities. But we know we have students here in the undergraduate population who are going on to graduate school, and we want to make sure we are recruiting them just as much as we are externally. And there are a number of different programs, pipeline initiatives, or just access programs, or just programs in general for underrepresented populations. So any opportunity to serve as a presenter, table at those fairs, to not add another program or recreate the wheel, if you will, has definitely served us well. I will highlight here at UNC, we do a good job just across the health profession schools in trying to collaborate as much as possible. So instead of, for example, our McNair scholars going to each of the different schools, we try to collaborate and bring one program together where we're all represented for that population.
Okay, great. Now, Todd, if I could get you to maybe share a little bit more about the partnerships you have with the current student groups. And why I think that's really important to kind of highlight is oftentimes people think about pipeline programs and they think about a formal program that can be put in place, but that sounds something that might be a little bit easier to do than a formal program, but just kind of relies on that relationship building. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. So, part of what we want to focus on, and it started as simple as us just simply looking for institutions that have public health organizations. But as we continue to dive into that endeavor, even talking with our Multicultural Public Health Student Association, this was something that was common amongst other universities. So as I mentioned, students are connected at this point, and just using those relationships and leveraging connections amongst our student orgs, whether it's through ambassadors or just current students, was something that we want or we thought would be helpful, and we are continuing to try to improve upon that.
Okay, great. Thank you both for your input. I think we're going to kind of look at off-campus recruitment, and I'm going to start out with Trinette. If you could share with us about off-campus recruitment at UNC Gillings.
Sure. We here have tried to be as intentional as possible to leverage our resources, being limited with financial resources, human resources. As it relates to recruitment, we've tried to look for opportunities at the national and regional level that will allow us as much exposure as possible. We here in the state of North Carolina have 11 historically Black colleges and universities, and we also have the University of North Carolina at Pembroke, which also serves a large number of Native American students based on location in Pembroke, North Carolina. And so I say all of that to say we just like everyone else, we get a lot of individual university and college career fairs, opportunities to come and talk to schools, or just table at the graduate and professional school fairs. And that unfortunately just wasn't serving us well in terms of how we were spending our time and our resources. And so we, in particular, have, since I've started here in this role, attended two pretty well-known, very well-attended national national conferences, and those would be the annual Biomedical Research Conference for minority students, also known as ASPPH, as well as SACNAS, which SACNAS is actually a national organization that focuses on Chicanos and Native Americans, and they also have a national STEM diversity conference that's part of their national organization and what they have to offer. And so for the past 5 years, we have consistently attended those conferences, and I can't tell you the number of students who I see sometimes year after year. So we get to start building those relationships because they have participated in a summer program, or they're in some program like MARC or some other federally funded pipeline program in their institution, and they're getting support to come and share their summer research or their year-long research at the conference. ASPPH in particular is really focused on the STEM majors, and I think the conference is about 4 days. Well over 2,000 students attend from well over 300 colleges and universities. We are in the mix of about 800 exhibitors. Students come prepared with resumes in hand and are looking for opportunities to be mentored or just get more information or connections on how they can make sure that their application is competitive for the graduate programs. And the same with SACNAS. Again, it is a national inclusive organization, and it's dedicated to fostering the success of Chicano, Hispanics, and Native Americans. There are, again, well over 2,000 students who attend this conference. And I think what has served us well is we have decided to do a North Carolina cluster at the events, and some other universities I'm sure do similar work, but we work to make sure all of our UNC schools and then other North Carolina schools are together. And so we're able to leverage and play off of each other, particularly if students are looking for one thing and they may be at one institution or one professional school, but can quickly just move over to Gillings if they're interested in public health. And so that exposure and then the ability to leverage resources from the other schools and information from the colleagues at the other schools has served us well at both of these events. And also when we're at Sackless and when we're at ABRACAMS, my colleagues that I partner with at Morehouse College for Project Imhotep, they're also there. So we're also recruiting for the pipeline program that I mentioned earlier at these national conference, which just allows things to be so seamless and allows us to come full circle and continue that recruitment, if you will, for the graduate programs that we're talking about at these various conferences. In addition to the national conferences, we do try to look for some regional events, just again to stress the point that we can't do a lot of the individual college, graduate, and professional school fairs or individual classroom visits. But when you're looking at national and regional events, that definitely allows you to get more exposure without having to go to so many different individual events. A couple of other regional conferences that have yielded well for us, the Gates Millennial Scholars Conference, and then the United Negro College Fund, National Alumni Conference, and National Pre-Alumni Conference. And what happened was those were just, I'll say, opportunities that were either in the state of North Carolina or pretty close on the West Coast, on the East Coast. And so because they were within driving distance or what have you, it allowed us to try on something new for low cost. And so I would say if folks are just paying attention to what's going on, that at a location or in a location that's nearby, it may give you an opportunity to just try something new that may, work out to the benefit in the long run. But because it was in the state of North Carolina or, in the state of Virginia, which is, a bordering state for us, would just made it easy for us to try it out.
Great, thank you. Michelle, I was wondering, could you tell us a little bit about what the Dream Office does and some of the off-campus recruitment initiatives that you all have?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Michelle. I'm the Diversity Outreach Coordinator for the Dream Office at UC Berkeley, and thank you for having me here today. Just to give a quick background on our office, DREAM stands for Diversity, Respect, Equity, Action, and Multiculturalism, and our mission is to increase the diversity of the public health workforce by supporting students from underrepresented minority and first-generation college backgrounds into public health careers and graduate degrees. So my role as Diversity Outreach Coordinator is really to focus on outreach. And I definitely hear what Trinette was saying about being smart about which events you go to, but we really, given limited budget and time and things like that, and so we're really trying to take that into consideration, but also cast a wide net and finding the balance of all of that. So we do quite a bit of outreach each year, up to maybe 40 events per semester, and I have 2 graduate students that paid graduate students who assist me with outreach and also oversee a team of 40 current student volunteers that we have who serve as ambassadors for the school, and they represent all our different programs. So we really do have a lot of student support for these outreach events. And we have a focus on California schools and organizations because the goal of our School of Public Health is for the student body to reflect the diversity of the state of California. And we want students from here who understand the issues that their communities are experiencing. And we recognize that we have a lot of work to do, but UC Berkeley actually has a campus-wide goal of becoming a Hispanic serving institution, or an HSI, as I'll continue to refer to it from here on out. But our office has actually made it an objective to do more outreach at HSIs in the state of California. So I probably only do 1 or 2 events out of state, and we really stick to focusing regionally. And so our outreach varies from workshops and presentations about like what is public health to what career opportunities are available and then how to actually apply for grad school, and I'll tailor it based on the group we're speaking to. But I'll usually just drop in on a student club meeting or speak in a class. And I'll talk a little bit about how I do that exactly, but I did want to mention some of the graduate diversity and pre-health career fairs that we go to that may be of interest to you on the call if you are in California. The California Forum for Diversity in Higher Education is huge. It takes place twice a year, one in NorCal, one in SoCal. And then we do speaking engagements and panels at pre-health conferences. There's one called SUMA at Stanford that we go to every year. There's also the Dia de los Muertos pre-health conference that is put on by a group of minority pre-health associations in the Bay. And then the past 5 years, we've also been to the Gates Millennium Scholars Alternative Spring Break. So, if you're interested, I have a list of some of these conferences that we go to, and I'm happy to share them after this if any of you are interested. But in general, we do try to make it a point to partner with orgs that have a common goal of diversifying health professions or diversifying higher ed. And to follow up on what I said earlier about speaking in classes or speaking to student clubs, we try to go to like public health classes or minority pre-health student clubs. We also do outreach with working professional groups. There's an AmeriCorps Health Fellows at a federally qualified health center down the street from UC Berkeley. We also do outreach with pre-med and STEM internship organizations or pipeline orgs specific for underrepresented students. So this kind of goes back to what Todd was talking about earlier. But with this, we basically try to reach anyone and everyone who may have an interest in health, social justice, science, or everything in between, and just expose to people how they can connect the dots of all their varying interests through public health. So often what I'll do to find these potential partners is to just go to websites for various institutions nearby and do a basic Google search for relevant student clubs or see if they have any health science or public health majors, departments, or classes. And then I'll search to see if there are staff, faculty, or student leaders that I can get in touch with. And it really is, I have a generic email that I send out, and a lot of times people don't respond, but for those who do, they're really eager to work with us and get us connected with our students, and those end up being our strongest partnerships. Sometimes people also reach out to us through word of mouth or find our website, and we have an outreach request form that people can fill out if they want us to do a presentation for their group. So for example, I got an email a couple weeks ago from the Alameda County Department of Public Health, and they have a group of high school interns. So I'll actually be going to speak to them today. And so one last thing I'll say is that years ago, we discovered that students aren't even getting exposure to public health at the college level unless we're there. And I can speak to this from personal experience because I had never heard about public health or career opportunities in the field until after I graduated. So because of this, we are trying to reach students earlier in the pipeline by going to community colleges, many of which are HSIs, and then we go to high schools and middle schools as well. The community colleges in particular are some of the most diverse institutions of higher education in California, and the majority of them don't have public health degrees, which kind of makes it ideal for us to do outreach there. We do recognize there are still a lot of barriers for community college students, and I'm happy to talk more about this later if any of you are interested in connecting, but we really are trying to develop other programs like for funding or experiential learning that might further support their academic and career goals in the field. But those are future goals that we're still trying to figure out now. So, yeah.
Thank you very much. That was really helpful. I think the first two talking points have kind of given us really good examples about of different ways and also how important it is to go out and connect with the students. And we've kind of received lots of different examples and different venues and different ways that we can kind of all start those relationships. So moving forward and thinking, okay, we've kind of identified these students, we've started that relationship building, and we want to invite them to campus for on-campus recruitment events. And Michelle, I'm going to go back to you. If you could tell us a little bit about some of the on-campus recruitment events that you use, especially since, 40 events a semester, that sounds like that's a lot in my world. That sounds like a lot of events off campus. So, it sounds like you also have some pretty good events as well for students to come to your campus. Can you share with us about those?
Yeah, so we do a lot of outreach through existing organizations on campus. For example, our Office of Graduate Diversity has a program called Getting into Graduate School. And it's a course for UC Berkeley students from underrepresented backgrounds to support them with career discovery, professional development, and mentoring and applying to grad school. So, we sit on a panel for them every year. We always do events with the Gates Millennium Scholars Network in the Bay Area, and each time I go down to SoCal, do that as well. We have another student group called the Biology Scholars Program, which is a STEM success program for minority and first-gen students. So, these are all existing UC Berkeley orgs. So I always, like I mentioned earlier, try to stop by in a club meeting or do a workshop or panel for them. And we partner quite a bit with our undergraduate public health majors since they oversee a new 4+1 program that we have. So they're also ideal candidates for our grad school. But the one big event that we put on each year where we really, extend the invitation to everyone and not just Cal students is our annual Fall Perspective Student Conference. We hold this event on a Saturday just to make it easier for people to attend. And it's totally free. We provide breakfast and lunch for the students. And the two graduate student coordinators that I mentioned earlier are in charge of planning this event with my support and the support of our larger student services team. So last year we had about 120 folks in attendance, some of whom got into our master's program this past cycle and who said how much that event made an impact on them. And, throughout the day, they have the opportunity to hear from guest faculty speakers. We do current student and alumni panels, and then we have all of our program managers come and table at lunch. And then there's a lot of mingling throughout the day so people can network. And, what we've heard from prospective students is that they love the opportunity to connect with current students at the school and hear directly about what their experiences have been like. And so that's why our ambassador team is so important to the work that we do. And it's been a really successful event for us each year, and we usually promote it to all of the partners that I mentioned earlier. So, if your school doesn't have an event like this, I would definitely recommend it because I think it's been really popular for us and helpful for our outreach efforts.
Okay, great. Trinette, would you be able to kind of share with us about what's going on at UNC Gillings?
Sure. Similar to what Michelle said, we obviously have the same information fairs, and we have our open houses for our master's programs, our doctoral programs, as well as our bachelor's programs. And that obviously is information that is shared to all students on our prospective student listservs and then highly advertised on our websites. But as it relates to diversity strategies, we do have a specific day that's titled the Experience Gillings Diversity Preview Day that we offer. We've been doing this for the past 3 years, and it essentially is an opportunity for prospective students from underrepresented minority backgrounds to spend a day immersed in our Gillings community. We want students to come here and quite literally see themselves here in the Gillings community. What we offer during Diversity Preview Day is a half-day programming related to admissions and all things prospective students. But we have this event in collaboration with another premier event that the School of Public Health has been offering for the last 25 years, and that's the National Health Equity Research Webcast. And so the Experience Gillings Day actually culminates with all students that are here for the prospective student event attending in person the webcast. And so our agenda pretty much starts with introductions, myself, as well as our Associate Dean for Student Affairs, our Assistant Dean for Inclusive Excellence. They come and bring welcoming remarks. We also collaborate with our Diversity and Student Success Office at the graduate school level. And so they come and bring remarks, but they also share resources that students, so that the students can get an idea of what's offered beyond the professional school to see the work that we're doing at the institutional level, particularly the graduate school level, as it relates to diversity and student success. and they specifically highlight our initiative for minority excellence. Oftentimes, students will come with them who are either Gillings students or students from other departments, but who are active in their programming to talk about their experiences and what those that programming and those resources mean to them. And then we have some very specific concentrated time so that they can talk and hear about applying to graduate school. My colleague Johnson and our associate director for our MPH program does a presentation about applying to UNC Gillings. They spend time specifically on the building the application and just, giving tips and kind of, hacks about what we're looking for and what things they should do and not do to make sure they are presenting a competitive quality application. We also have an information fair, so all of our concentrations in our departments set up in our atrium, and students are able to interact with the student admissions representatives, faculty, staff, and then sometimes prospective current students are there to interact with the prospective students. And then we also provide a very nice networking lunch. And the networking lunch is the opportunity for the participants to interact with current Gillings students, to talk to them, to Michelle's point, about what their application process was like, how they enjoy being here at Gillings, and then other questions about just life in North Carolina or life in Chapel Hill. We give them the opportunity to do a tour if they want to see more than what we've shown them of the school. So again, stressing the point of we want them to see themselves here physically. So making sure they, see that our space is inclusive, that they walk around and see other folks that are looking like them and not just us bringing those, people to the programming, but they're just seeing it throughout the day and in the classes. And then we end with, again, them attending the National Health Equity Research webcast. Every year during the webcast, our dean brings greetings and she acknowledges the student participants for Diversity Preview Day. This year, she actually asked them to stand up. But again, creating a welcoming environment, allowing them to get that acknowledgement from our dean, to meet her if during the break or if they choose to stay for the reception that happens after the National Health Equity webcast in a very intimate setting. We're creating this program around a larger program here at Gillings. And what happens is we advertise this on our website and to the prospective student listserv, but I also make special invitations to our local HBCUs, to UNC Pembroke, to programs at PWIs that are geared toward diversity and student success. So like our TRIO programs, the Meyerhoff Scholar Program, the programs on campus here at UNC. For example, we have a Chancellor Science Scholars Program, which is similar to the Meyerhoff program. It's a pipeline initiative. Other post-baccalaureate programs, we are intentional about making sure they get this information and are able to share it with their students. All the students who participated in our summer programs, summer undergraduate training programs, are getting the invitation to this event. We, on average, are having anywhere from 25 to 30 students attend. We probably have about 50 at the most to have registered this was the third year that we've offered this program. So while we wanted to definitely grow and continue to be impactful, we do want it to be a very intimate environment here at Gillings because it is such a large school. And oftentimes we hear that hesitation from students when they're thinking about Gillings or coming here, that they say is large. They're currently students at smaller institutions. They already assume that it will be overwhelming. And so in an intimate environment like this, we're able to hopefully minimize some of those concerns that they might have.
Okay, great. Todd, I think you have an example for us about what's going on at The Ohio State University that might be a little bit different to some of the previous events we've heard about.
Yeah, absolutely. So we, through our Office of Diversity and Inclusion on campus, we have a program called Graduate and Professional Student Recruitment Initiative. And this program is for the underrepresented population, and it's for rising seniors that intend to graduate at least by June of 2020. So these individuals will have the opportunity to apply, and then if awarded or if admitted to this program, they'll have an opportunity to visit campus. Roughly we've seen 150 students a year enter this program and visit campus. And this isn't just for public health specifically, but we do have a small percentage of students participate within that group. But amongst these students, what they will do, it's a three-day program. So they will come to campus on a Sunday, which Ohio State will cover their transportation costs. They cover all accommodations as far as hotel, which they put them on campus at a hotel we have here, and they provide meals for those 3 days. So they come in on a Sunday. At that point, they do some Ohio State programming, take a tour of the campus, and they provide opportunities for the students to explore the city, which we will guide them and walk them through different areas of the city that they can just learn about what Columbus is and kind of see what Columbus is in general. So then the Monday, the respective students will visit their programs of choice. So like I said, we have anywhere from 6 to 9, even 10 students from that group of 150 that will have interests with public health. So for example, the day that we put together for them, we meet them, we have a breakfast that is organized through the Office of Diversity and Inclusion. After that breakfast, we do a small kind of health science tour for this group. We then do like a mini info session, kind of just talk about our programs, the application process, and how they can be a competitive applicant, not just for our programs, but for all of our respective programs involved in public health. We have time that they can meet faculty from their respective programs. So if someone's interested in epidemiology, we try to make sure that we have faculty from the epidemiology program available to talk to them. They will have lunch with current students. We get them into a classroom after that, and then we bring them back to the overall event where there's a dinner reception at night. And then Tuesday, there's like a half day kind of programming that the Office of Diversity and Inclusion puts together, and then they are done Tuesday afternoon. So that 3 days, it's really impactful. It's an opportunity for students just to get on campus, that would never have the opportunity to come to Columbus or Ohio State to visit our campus. And of those 150 year over year, we see about 40% of those students will actually matriculate into any of those respective programs. So high, that is a great number of yield that we see within that group. There's also opportunities for funding within those. So a great incentive for students to come to campus just to get an idea of the programs that can be offered for them. Earlier, I mentioned the McNair Scholar opportunity. So our graduate professional admissions department, along with our graduate school, will also host McNair Scholars. So with that program, we've seen 60 to 70 students visit in the summer for a day, and we kind of do the same thing, but it's a modified version. We still try to get them in front of faculty, just to meet them, try to learn a little bit more about the college. We do a tour, we kind of give them an idea of what our programs are in the application process. But again, another opportunity where students are coming from other institutions, really not even from Ohio, but just outside of Ohio, to come to Columbus to get onto our campus and learn more about how Ohio State can help them moving forward.
And I just wanted to add, this is Trinette. I forgot to mention that I Also, during the invitation for Diversity Preview Day, work to encourage staff and administrators, even faculty at some of our institutions who have a group of students to come with them, so that there's some reinforcement and continued messaging. Also, so that, you know, when they are helping to inform students back at their institutions about applying to graduate school, the GRE, the application, when they're asked to do letters of recommendation, they have received this information, the same information that we are sharing with the students. And I think that again, consistent message and reinforcement is helpful for them and the success of their students, but also in them working with the students.
Great, thank you. I think those are definitely some great examples that hopefully attendees will be able to, hopefully they will inspire attendees to start their own programming or to collaborate with others for on-campus recruitment programming. I kind of want to switch directions a little bit right now and talk about that application review process. And as we were kind of preparing for this discussion, we were talking to Michelle, and she really gave us some pretty cool examples about what her office, how her office is helping with admissions and application review. Michelle, would you be able to kind of dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, so the Dream Office is pretty involved with our school's application review, in particular for our master's programs. We really work to enforce holistic admissions and make sure that the staff and faculty who are reading applications take into consideration the importance of context and the personal history of each student, and that they're aware of obstacles or challenges that underrepresented applicants may be experiencing. And as I'm sure many of you know, these obstacles can include being first gen or low income, working through undergrad, attending under-resourced high schools, or even coming from families where English may not be spoken at home. And so understanding these students' narratives really requires taking an extra look at their personal history statement, which is a second essay that we require on top of the statement of purpose. And I know some schools have that second essay, some don't, so we do, and it's been really helpful for us. And we also look for applicants who may have experience working with marginalized populations or have a demonstrated commitment to service through organizations like Peace Corps, Teach for America, or even the military. And again, as I'm sure many of you know, there are a lot of biases in the admissions review process. As much as we like to think that's not the case, it's there, especially when it comes to test scores or grades. And so our team is there to try to minimize that potential for bias by making sure that certain applicants are getting a second look. So the way we do that is that each staff person in DREAM, that's myself, my supervisor, and our faculty director, splits up the applications for all underrepresented minority and first-gen students, which is over 100 applications for each of us for our master's programs. And then after reading those applications, we send to each program's admissions committee the names of students who may easily get overlooked by faculty because of low GPA or GRE scores. And we try to include notes on other ways that the student has demonstrated their potential through non-academic achievements. So it's important to emphasize that our team does not get a vote. We don't actually have a say in who gets selected. That is still entirely up to the staff, student, and faculty admissions reviewers, but they have just found it helpful to get those additional notes from us, especially if there are students that we've worked with personally through our outreach or advising. And, you know, I will say that given the many systemic barriers that underrepresented applicants face in applying to grad school, we would anticipate a lower admission rate for you know, MPH students from underrepresented backgrounds compared to the overall applicant pool. And this was true prior to when we hired our director of diversity in 2005. But since then, as our school has begun dedicating more time and resource to outreach with prospective students, in addition to including our office in the holistic review process, we've seen our admissions rates go up for underrepresented students, and it's actually comparable to the overall pool now, which is exciting.
I think that advocacy is so important, and what kind of struck me was that how important it was that your office is able to kind of point out and advocate and speak on behalf of the students as a non-voter. I don't know, I just feel like that is so helpful, and I definitely think that's one thing that jumped out to me about how could we incorporate something similar to that. Making sure we make time for our last topic and then also a few minutes for questions. We do appreciate everybody's time today. A big key part of this discussion has been that relationship building or the mentoring that kind of comes with the recruitment piece. And so kind of being a little bit more targeted in this question, Todd, I was hoping that you could discuss a little bit about how the faculty get involved with mentoring prospective students and what that looks like at Ohio State.
Yeah, so we are involved in a program. It's called Summer Research Opportunities Program. It's overseen by the Big Ten Academic Alliance. This is a summer program where students will have the opportunity to spend, usually it's anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks of their summer physically on Ohio State's campus, doing research as it aligns to their interests with what faculty are doing respectively in our programs, or really any of our programs across the campus. The nice thing about this, because they're on campus for 8 weeks, the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, the graduate school, and the respective programs will have opportunities to work with these prospective students. So not only are they getting that time with faculty to conduct research that will make them a more competitive applicant and just diversify and build upon their skills that they're trying to grow as an undergraduate student. This is also giving them the chance to learn more about our programs and really what they can do with a public health degree or respective to their interests moving forward. So it's a great opportunity, again, to get off their campus, to do something new, to visit a place where they may not have had the opportunity to visit, especially for 8 weeks, and conduct research that aligns with something they're passionate about. So our faculty are really enthusiastic about doing these opportunities and involving prospective students that may eventually end up in our programs, or just in general are interested in their field of research.
Okay, great. It's kind of in a similar fashion. Trinette, could you talk a little bit about how staff can serve as mentors for prospective students?
Sure, it's pretty much similar to everything Todd said, but from the staff's perspective, as it relates to connecting with students whenever or however they end up on campus. For example, through our summer undergraduate training programs, while we try to provide the research seminars, we also bring in staff who serve in a variety of capacities. Johnson, as our admissions director, you've worked with our students in our summer undergraduate training programs or some of our other prospective student programming or just recruitment efforts. And you connect with students in a lot of different ways when they just are asking questions about the application process. And for us, a lot of times with students who are still trying to decide what it is that they want to do, what program they should go into, and because we have a good number of programs here at Gillens, that mentorship and support has been important in terms of just staying in constant communication, whether it's via email or them wanting to sit down and have face-to-face meetings during their prospective student day visits, or some of them schedule those visits on their own. I think a lot of times when you share common identities with prospective students, you end up connecting with them and have the opportunity to mentor them. I've seen staff connect with students through, for example, our Carolina Black Caucus, which is an affinity group here at UNC made up primarily of faculty of color, but also staff. And staff are used to help be a point of contact for prospective students, and we're connected to them through either the graduate admissions or the admissions office, or an admissions office at the undergraduate level or in a specific school. I think that being a first generation student, we have the Carolina First and the Grad First. We have a number of women of color or kind of sister circle events here for staff, and we're always charged with making sure that we agree to be a point of contact for prospective students. And oftentimes when you have that initial visit, that initial conversation, we end up staying in contact. There have been so many students here at UNC's campus, but also just from meeting students out on the road at the various conferences I mentioned, et cetera. And we end up developing that mentor-mentee relationship. And they may not end up, in Gillens that very next year. But over time with that mentorship, I've had several success stories where I see the students actually matriculating now, but I may have met them 4 years ago or 3 years ago at an event.
Okay, great. And Michelle, I think you spoke earlier about your student involvement, and sometimes, mentoring doesn't have to come from faculty or staff. That relationship can come from current students and that peer mentoring. Would you be able to share a little bit about what that looks like at UC Berkeley?
Yeah, totally. It's funny because with many of the prospective students that we reach out to, that we speak to, they really want to connect with faculty. And I'll be upfront and say I could probably count all of our faculty of color on both of my hands. And it's these faculty that really carry the burden of mentoring so many of our underrepresented minority students. And so we have to find other avenues by which students can get connected with people who understand what it's like to be in their shoes. And our current students are the best people to do that because they know what it's like. They know what it's like to apply. They know what it's like to come from, environments that may not be supportive of their career trajectories in public health or even going to grad school. And I think it means a lot to our prospective students to be able to connect with people who have been through that and can really relate to them on a personal level. And so, like I said earlier, we have 2 paid student staff who oversee the recruitment of our volunteer ambassadors. And our ambassadors really do it out of the goodness of their hearts. A lot of them were supported by, peer mentors when they were applying. They got in touch with grads ambassadors when they were prospective students. And so by the time they get here, they want to give back to the school, and they understand the importance of diversifying our student body and diversifying our public health workforce. So it really doesn't take a lot of convincing for them. But oftentimes we give them free food too for trainings. And so they're excited to come and really just build community with one another as well. So I think it benefits both our current students and our prospective students for them to be able to serve as mentors.
Great. I want to be respectful of everybody's time, and all of our presenters today did agree that they'd be more than happy to speak with anybody that has follow-up questions directly. So I think they were gracious enough to share their email addresses with us so that we can kind of follow up with them if we have any questions. Today is kind of a great start in the discussion process, and I hope that we can continue this at our next meeting in, I guess, November, which is coming right up. And I hope that many of you can use some of these strategies this fall in this current admission cycle for your recruitment efforts. So I know we're kind of bumping up right at the end of the time. Nick, are you good with ending it now, and we can just send out people's email addresses, because I want to make sure I'm respectful of our presenters' time.
Yeah, absolutely. And in the handout, which is a slide deck of the slides, everyone's emails are in the PowerPoint, as well as we will send out a follow-up email, and you can respond to that, and I will get those responses and be able to field your questions to the right people. So we'll kind of wrap up the presentation now, and I just want to let you know that we'll have this recorded webinar on our website under archived webinars. And you can also contact me at nmahoney@asppph.org if you have any specific questions or if you can't find that link. And then we all hope you join us for our next webinar, which is managing compliance challenges involving global collaborators. And you can find that link on our website. Thank you so much to the panelists for joining us, and for Johnson for serving as our moderator, and for all the attendees for taking time out of their day to be a part of this conversation. We hope you all have a great day, and this webinar is adjourned. Have a great day. Take care.